Wagwan, everybody. I am your Jamaican queen, Miss Y. You are tuned into How I See It TV, and this is Accurate Context. So, Miss Nell and Chris Fletcher, they did an interview, sit down with a YouTuber called From Crystal XO. That's the name of her channel, From Crystal XO. And the title of the video is Reality Check with the Fletchers. It's for a segment on her channel called Rolling Out. I've never watched her channel before, but I watched for this interview so that I could have accurate context. Now, if this is the first time you're watching my channel, or if you've watched before and you don't understand why I do accurate context videos, I'm going to let y'all know. My first accurate context video, well, when it came to my mind the first time around, it was because of the whole season 5 altercation on Real Housewives of Potomac. And I, to this day, feel like majority of the people who are on Monique's side is because they don't have accurate context. They only watched season 5. They never watched season 1, 2, 3, or 4 of The Real Housewives of Potomac, or they only watched season 4 and season 5 of The Real Housewives of Potomac, or they just watched clips online, and the clips that are posted online, they don't give full context of things said and done during episodes of these reality shows. Also, if you don't follow reality TV stars on social media, you don't see what they post, you don't follow their interviews, you don't watch the after shows, then you are also going to miss out on some context with things that are happening on the show, or things that are edited out of scenes. And so because of that, I decided that I was going to do a podcast. It was supposed to be a podcast at first. I was going to do a podcast breaking down the things that led up to that season 5 altercation. I also wanted to debunk some of the lies that were being told about Candace in terms of her finances, and if she only depends on her parents and stuff like that. And I have a video posted up. It's my first accurate context video, and it shows who Candace was before The Real Housewives of Potomac. Sis was a marketing executive at one point. She was a financial executive at one point. She did, in fact, work for the Obama-led administration at the time. So it was always just mind-boggling to me that people continue to say, oh, Candace is broke, or Candace, Ashley, talking about Candace the least accomplished. During season 3, Ashley said this, that Candace was the least accomplished on the stage. And that narrative has gone on and on. Miss Dorothy bought Candace's first house. I went and I paid the money. I found the documentation that stated that it was both Candace and Miss Dorothy whose names were on the title for that home, because they bought the house together as an investment property. But I digress. So with all that being said, y'all, I watched the Chris and Nel Fletcher interview, and my opinion absolutely differs from some of, you know what, I'm not even going to talk about anybody else's opinion. I'm not even going to talk about any other YouTuber's opinion. I'm only going to talk about my opinion. And my opinion might be shocking to y'all, but I want y'all to understand that this is how my mind works. I have to process. I have to analyze. I have to, if it's an interview and I can listen to it 1, 2, 3, 4 times to make sure that I'm hearing what I'm hearing and that the understanding that I have makes sense, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did with the Chris and Nel Fletcher interview. And in my opinion, I don't believe that Nel Fletcher, she said anything bad in one of the statements that she made, and I'm going to break it down for y'all. But before I do, let's put into focus that Chris and Nel Fletcher, they were confidants and they were counselors for the then Holt. And this isn't coming from my thoughts. This isn't coming from my brain. This isn't just information that I'm throwing out there. This is what both Melody and Martel and the Fletchers has said about their relationship. That their relationship was built on, one, yes, they were friends because they met the Holts as a married couple. That is what the Fletchers said. They didn't say we met Martel first and then we met Melody first. They said we met y'all as a married couple. And I guess as the relationship progressed and as the then Holts began to go through marital issues, they leaned on the Fletchers, who were in 20-year marriage. I don't know. I think Chris said they've been married for 30 years. However, they leaned on the Fletchers at that time, who were providing them with counsel. And Nel Fletcher has said that when they were counseling Martel and Melody at the time, that they would be at their home for hours and hours and hours into the wee hours of the morning, talking to them, talking to Martel about his behavior, telling him that he is about to mess up his life and his family's life in the worst ways. So that leads me to jump to a conclusion that Nel Fletcher and Chris Fletcher, they hold a lot of secrets for the Holts. And secrets does not always mean a bad thing, y'all. Let's put that out there. Somebody holding a secret for you doesn't mean that it's something bad. It just means that someone told you something in confidence, and the confidence that they have in you is that you will never disclose the things that they have disclosed to you. And so I feel like Nel and Chris, they have never come out to speak on any of the things that were talked about during those late night, early morning counseling sessions that they had with the then Holts. So they do hold some of their secrets. I'm sure there are things that Melody confided in Nel Fletcher about that she has never said to us publicly. And I'm sure there are things that Martel has told Chris about his infidelity that neither of them has ever told us publicly about. So when we put that friendship into context and we look at this interview that Nel Fletcher and Chris Fletcher did, then I don't feel like I'm wrong in the opinion that I'm about to share. So the interviewer asks the Fletchers about Martel's arrest, and Nel Fletcher doubles down on the fact that she didn't like the fact that Martel was arrested. But then she goes on to say that she had not spoken to Melody yet at the time. And so she didn't understand exactly why he was being arrested. And she didn't understand the extremes that I guess Martel had taken things to that would have pushed Melody to file that police report. And to that part of the interview, I say, well, if you didn't know what he was being arrested for, then Miss Nell, you shouldn't have had an opinion one way or the other of agreeing or disagreeing with him being arrested. And I feel like that's reasonable. You don't know all the information, but you are sitting in a scene saying you don't agree that he was arrested. Miss Nell, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Which would either mean you fully understood what he was arrested for, but you felt like that wasn't a serious enough issue or a situation for him to be arrested for. That's the only conclusion that I can draw, and that's my opinion. But before Nell Fletcher says all of that part, she speaks on her friendship with Melody and Martel. And she says that the show is a lot of drama. And she says that the show, it gets draining. She didn't say Martel or Melody that they're draining. She didn't say that Martel and Melody's drama gets draining. She didn't say that she's drained by Melody or she's drained by Martel. She was talking about the show and some of the drama that takes place on the show in general. She says that the show, well, it gets draining. And then she goes on to say that she doesn't look at Martel and Melody as just friends. She said she can't call them friends. They are like family, because she gets mad at both of them as if they were family. And as I said earlier on in my video, these are two people who know far more about Melody and Martel and the breakdown of that marriage. Chris and Nel knows way more than we probably will ever know. They are holding secrets that we will probably never, ever, ever be privy to. And that's fine, because they were acting as counselors at the time for the then Holts. So Nell goes on to explain that she didn't understand the severity of the situation. And I feel like what Nell was trying to explain when she says that she gets mad at both of them, she was trying to explain that the reason why she gets mad at both of them, just like they were part of her family, is because both of them can be stubborn and both of them can be hard-headed. And maybe, y'all, the reason she can say that she's held both of them accountable at times is because she's privy to things that we are not. Again, they have all stated that the Fletchers were giving them counseling, that they would talk to the Fletchers about the issues they were facing in their marriage. They've all admitted to being up until the wee hours of the morning, trying to talk through the things that were happening in that marriage at the time, trying to help the then Holts to make it through that more than a rough patch. So if she's saying that, in her opinion, Both of them can be stubborn and both of them can be hard-headed, and that she has held both of them accountable for whatever from time to time, then who are we to say that the lady is wrong for saying that? When we aren't privy to half of the stuff that she has been privy to. That's where I'm looking at it from. That yes, we have this parasocial relationship with Melody, and we love her, and we are fans, and we admire her strength, we admire her business acumen, we admire the fact that she could pitch this amazing show and put all these people on, and now they're ungrateful. We can look at how she's treated on the show, how she's being treated by her ex-husband, and we can say all of that is wrong. But on the other hand, y'all, there are things that we don't know. There are things that we don't know about these people's friendships or the breakdown of some of the friendships. One thing I'll give Kimmy is that she has said over and over and over again that even though the Scots 1.0 and Melody and maybe even Martel aren't on the best of terms, that there are still secrets. There's still secrets that none of them has disclosed. I have disclosed. Kimmy has said that several times. That's one thing that she has maintained. That as bad as we think things are between all of them, there's still things that they've held close to their chest. That's context right there. That's accurate context right there. These friendships existed before the show. Absolutely did. So we can speak on what we see play out on the show, but we can't speak on the things that we haven't seen and we haven't heard. So to say that Miss Nell isn't a good friend because she's saying from her experience, and mark you, I'm not defending Nell in any way. I'm just looking at the interview for what it is. I'm looking at her words. I'm looking at the transcript. I'm not putting 90 on 10 to make what she said seem like something else. In my opinion, she's speaking from the place of somebody who has had more conversations with Melody and with Martel than any of us will ever have. And so if she says, yeah, they can both be stubborn, I don't see why that is like wrong. I don't see why that's just like a bad thing. I don't see how that would make her a bad friend. I don't see how this particular interview or the words said in this particular interview, these specific words, would make her a bad friend by saying, look, when I first heard about the arrest, I didn't agree, which again is crazy, Nel Fletcher, because you shouldn't have had an opinion about whether you agreed with it or not if you had no idea what he was being arrested for. Right? And she said, I feel like both of them can be stubborn and both of them can be hard-headed and both of them don't listen sometimes. And I've had to hold both of them accountable. But then when I found out the full details of what Martel did, then I completely understood why Melody had to do what she did. And that's what the lady said in the interview. Whether you agree with it or not, those were her words. her words had context to it. And we have to make sure that we are not missing those tiny details, those tiny nuances that helps to complete the puzzle, that helps to give us the larger picture, because it does make a difference. It does make a difference when you are putting a puzzle together. If you are missing just that one little piece, that one piece being missing makes a difference. It makes a difference, right? So they also went on in the interview to say that they're not in Melody's shoes. They cannot say what they would or would not have done had they been in her shoes. And they may not have agreed. Again, and I'll continue to say it, makes no sense that when we watched that scene with Miss Nel Fletcher and Stormy, that she was saying she doesn't agree. And she also said it to Mel's face that, look, when I first heard about his arrest, I didn't agree. But now she's saying, now that I know all the information, I understand why Melody filed the report. And I can't say that I wouldn't have done the same thing had I been in her shoes. And they also said they've spoken to Martel so much about his behavior that at some point he has to understand that there are going to be consequences for his actions. And these are the consequences that he's facing right now for his actions. They also said this in the interview. Chris said he can't say, he can't speak to whether what Melody did was wrong or right. It's not for him to decide. That's for Melody to decide. And what Melody decided was it is right for her to protect herself, her peace of mind, her privacy, her brand, by reporting his threat when she received all the information that she received. Because mark you, Melody said when he initially sent the text message, that threat, she was going to brush it off like, whatever. And she did. But then, as I said, you got to pay attention to those tiny details when you're putting a puzzle together. When the puzzle pieces kept falling into place, and she found that last missing piece that helped her make sense of the entire picture. And that missing piece was Carson Blue jumping into the chat and saying, this is a conversation that I had with Coleslaw. And she said there was a whole plot in play. And another piece of the puzzle was these recordings being dropped of Coleslaw saying, yeah, I have the video and I shared it with my sister, and girl, I can send it to you too. And then when that piece dropped in, mixed with the Carson Blue piece of it all, and then the threat that she still had in her phone, that text message, then she was able to say, yeah, I can't be out here playing with this man. He's not trustworthy. Let me go report this before I see myself over there on the hub or over there on Twitter, before my children have to see that. And so she did what she did. So, as I continue to say throughout this video, the Fletchers, they've had a long-standing friendship with both Melody and Martel. They are privy to discussions and information and secrets that we as a fan base may never, ever, ever be privy to. So when these people are saying certain things like we've had to hold both of them accountable, or sometimes Melody can be stubborn and Martel is stubborn, they're both stubborn. I don't feel like that's a description that isn't common. Like, that's a very common description to say that somebody can be stubborn. I can be stubborn. You can be stubborn. We all have stubborn tendencies. She didn't go into great details as to why she has that opinion, but as I said, she's privy to more things in that situation than we've been privy to. So when we listen to interviews, let's be mindful that we're not misconstruing people's words because we want to paint a certain picture or we want to create a certain narrative that's more entertaining. The transcript is there. If you misinterpreted something, then go back and read the transcript and see for yourself what was said. And this isn't a dig at anybody. This is just my opinion of the Nel Fletcher and Chris Fletcher interview. And at the end of it, they said Martel does need to accept responsibility for his behavior because him making that threat wasn't okay. And that after all the years of trying to help him to get his act together, yeah, he has to learn sometimes the hard way that there are consequences for every action. And Chris and Nel Fletcher, they're both saying that they have a brother-sister type relationship with Martel and Melody. And of course, we want to see them take a hard stance. In the same way that my hard stance is Martel is wrong, as the summer days are long, we want to see some of these people who are around Melody, who know her personally, take a hard stance as well. But we also have to understand and we also have to admit that when you have long-standing friendships with people sometimes, when you have deep connections and deep relationships with people sometimes, taking a hard stance on certain things, it's easier said than done. We are going to see Nel Fletcher not next week, on Saturday's episode, the upcoming episode on Saturday, take a stance to not invite Martel to her birthday party, but have Melody there. So I guess that's something. I don't know. We, at this point in time, we have no idea where Melody's friendship with the Fletchers stand. I think in time we'll find out. But until then, y'all, that's how I see it. Please drop down in the comment section below and let me know how you see things too. Remember, this is a safe space where how I see it and you see things never have to be the same. So let me know how you see things, or just drop me a little eyeball so that I know that you stopped by the yard. Remember to like this video, share the link to my channel if you feel like my content needs some more crowd, subscribe if you have not done so yet, follow me at How I See It on Instagram, Twitter now called X, and on TikTok. Until next time, walk good. Bye.